Okay, you hear a lot about AI these days, but I promise you, this is one of the most surprising and honestly coolest uses I've seen yet. We're going to talk about startups, we're going to talk about GPS and machine learning, and we're going to talk about cows. Yeah, that's right, AI-powered collars that can steer an entire herd of cattle using nothing more than a virtual fence you draw on your phone. But first, to get why this even matters, you got to understand the sheer scale of the problem we're talking about. Look at this number, 29 million. That's how many beef cows are in the United States alone. Trying to manage all of them is a monumental task. So here's how we're going to break it all down in this explainer. We'll kick things off with that 29 million cow problem, then we'll look at the virtual fence solution, and then we get to the really good stuff. How do you actually steer a cow with just sound? What is the cow algorithm that powers this whole thing? And maybe the most amazing part, how the herd itself becomes a giant data sensor. And yeah, we'll wrap it all up with a question that might hit a little close to home. All right, so let's start at the beginning. We need to talk about a problem that has been a headache for ranchers for, well, basically forever. You know, for as long as people have raised cattle, they've used fences. But think about it. Putting up miles and miles of physical barriers is wildly expensive, it's backbreaking work, and it's totally inflexible. If you're trying to do something like rotational grazing, where you move the herd to fresh pasture, you either have to build even more fences or manually move hundreds of animals. It's just not a modern solution. But of course, this is where technology steps in and completely changes the game, making those old wooden posts and barbed wire look like something out of a museum. So the solution is really a three-part kit. First up, every single cow gets its own solar-powered GPS collar. Think of it like a Fitbit for cows. Second, you have these towers on the ranch that use something called LoRaWAN, which is just a fancy way of saying a low-powered, long-range network that's perfect for sending little bits of data across huge remote areas. And third, the farmer gets a simple app on their smartphone to control the whole shebang. Okay, so you've got the hardware all set up, but the real question is, how in the world do you actually convince a 1,000-pound animal to turn left without ever touching it? This is where the psychology comes in, and it is fascinating. As a cow gets close to that invisible line the farmer drew on their map, the collar plays a little buzzing sound. But here's the clever part. It's directional. If the fence is on the cow's left, the buzz comes in its left ear. The cow's natural instinct is to turn away from the annoying noise, and just like that, it steers itself back into the pasture. And get this, most cows figure out the entire system in just a couple of days. But here's the thing, and I absolutely love this detail. Cows have different personalities. You've got your compliant cows. They hear the buzz, they get the message, and they turn around. Easy peasy. But then you've got your rebel cows. These are the ones that push the limits. They hear that buzz and decide to test it. For them, the system has a plan B, a very mild electrical pulse, just enough to say, hey, we're serious about this line. You can practically hear what's going through that rebel cow's head, right? It hears the little buzz and just thinks, yeah, screw that buzzing noise. It's exactly that kind of independent thinking that the system has to be smart enough to manage to make sure the entire herd respects those virtual boundaries. And that intelligence, that ability to adapt, that brings us to the real heart of this whole thing. This isn't just a fancy GPS fence. It's a seriously sophisticated AI that's learning all the time. They actually call it the cow algorithm, and what it does is pretty incredible. It creates a unique individual behavioral profile for every single cow. It learns from every interaction, figuring out each animal's specific patterns. It knows who the compliant ones are, it knows who the rebels are, and it customizes its approach for each one. So how does it actually learn? Well, it uses a classic AI technique called a reinforcement learning loop. It's a simple three-step dance. Step 1, the collar emits a cue, either the buzz or the pulse. Step 2, the system watches and observes the cow's response. Did it turn? Did it keep going? Step 3, based on that outcome, the algorithm adjusts its strategy for that cow, getting a little bit smarter and a little more effective every single time. Now, steering cows is already a game changer, but here's the real kicker. That constant river of data flowing from those collars creates this amazing, unexpected payoff. The entire herd, it becomes a living, breathing sensor network. For instance, the system can spot the earliest signs that a cow might be getting sick. How? Get this, by analyzing the subtle, tiny changes in its chewing patterns. That's a level of detail that a human rancher could never, ever spot across a herd of hundreds. It doesn't stop there. The algorithm can also automatically flag when a cow is entering a reproductive cycle. It does this just by recognizing specific, telltale movement patterns that are invisible to the naked eye. That's hugely important for managing the herd. And it's not even just about the animals. By tracking exactly where the herd is grazing and for how long, the system can actually monitor the health of the pasture itself. It can see how well the grass is recovering in different spots, which is absolutely critical for sustainable farming. So let's just recap that, because it's pretty mind-blowing. This thing started as a virtual fence, but it's really a total management system. You're monitoring animal health through chewing, reproductive cycles through movement, and even the health of the land itself. Your entire herd has become a massive living data collection machine. But the beauty of it is for the actual rancher on the ground, all of this insane AI complexity is completely hidden. It's all behind a super simple interface. They can literally just tap a button on their phone, and at 4:30 in the morning, 600 cows will get a gentle nudge and start walking themselves to the milking shed. It is automation on a scale that's hard to even imagine. So this is obviously incredible, innovative stuff. And whenever you see technology this powerful, it naturally leads to a bigger and maybe slightly more uncomfortable question about where all of this is headed. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to chew on. With the incredible pace that AI is developing, learning our behaviors, predicting our actions, steadily guiding our choices online, is it really that big of a leap to imagine some version of this technology being applied to us? Will we be wearing these in the next 30 years? Definitely something to think about.